Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here on KTN News Desk on this 9th day of February 2017. Always a pleasure to have you tuned in. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla, and I am Akisa Wandera. Now, the High Court has quashed the government's decision to close down the Dadaab refugee camp in Garissa County. Justice John Mativo has ruled that Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri and his Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho acted beyond their powers by issuing the directive to close down the camp. The judge also directed the two to put in place mechanisms that will ensure the Department of Refugees was in place. The planned repatriation of refugees was also found to be arbitrary. According to the judge, the closure was in a breach of the Constitution. He added that Nkaiseri and Kibicho acted in excess of their powers, which amounted to abuse of powers. Now, this particular ruling comes at a time when Germany, that has taken thousands of refugees fleeing the conflict in Syria, is holding a key summit with African nations here in Nairobi. Our reporter Joy Doreen Beera caught up with a member of the German Parliament, Charles Haber, to speak about the manner Germany has handled the issue of refugees. She's now joining us live from the Intercontinental Hotel with more. Good afternoon, Joy. This particular ruling, as I've just mentioned, comes at a time when there's a key summit, and Kenya and Germany are known to receive an influx of refugees. What exactly is the reaction there?
Well, good afternoon, Akisa. And yes, indeed, we are on the sidelines of the German-African Business Summit that is happening here in Nairobi. But then, of course, among those present at this summit are members of parliament in Germany. And one of them happens to be the first African-German member of parliament in Germany. And he would like to hear his insights on what exactly he thinks about the crisis of refugees around the world. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for speaking to us once again. You know, Germany happens to be one of the countries that has embraced refugees from around the world. But how exactly are you able to manage the numbers coming into the country, considering Kenya was actually considering closing one of the largest refugee camps in the world?
So let me talk first about Germany. The situation is we have to, first of all, it's cost intensive. That's where you said, how do we manage it?
Yeah.
I think we spend about 20 billion euro 2016 just for programs for the refugees. But the refugee crisis itself, we have to see and look at it from different angles. And if we talk about African refugees, it's different. Like you talk about refugees from the Middle East. So also we have to talk about the impact it had on European policies in terms of the strengthening of the ultra-right. A situation in Germany is when we talk about the welcome issue from our Chancellor Merkel. Situation is and was at that time that everybody really appreciated that gesture, also within Germany. But that was an incident would really change the climate among German folks.
Yeah.
It was on New Year 2015 and 2016 in Cologne, when youngsters and young guys from the Maghrebinian zone, North Africa, attacked young women. They gathered around the dome, the center of Cologne, and attacked women, stole their money, and attacked them sexually as well.
And that's one of the concerns for Kenya as well, is that the more numbers of refugees we have in the country, the more insecure the country is going to be. But I don't know from your perspective how you would say Germany has been able to rule out all of these threats and fears.
First of all, I think we have to divide as well. People coming from crisis areas like in the Middle East, they have a right due to the Geneva Convention. We cannot change the Geneva Convention. Still, when we talk about Africa, the situation is different. Now we talk about, as we stopped to a certain extent or to a larger extent, the refugee streamings coming from the Middle East. Now we have a focus on the refugee movements from Africa. Let me tell you one thing, as somebody who is also African, obviously, this situation and this phenomena was known, and just the difference is from the legal side.
Yeah.
If you're a so-called economic refugee, you have no right to stay and ask for the status of a refugee. Now, the situation which is counterproductive for the Africans, let me say it like that now everything is mixed.
Yeah.
Then everything is seen under the aspect of terrorism and inner insecurity. Situation is never ever in Europe an African originated refugees caused or initialized any terrorist attack. But now they're mixed up with all the others.
So how would you advise a country like Kenya deal with a situation like this? Because today the courts actually ruled against the closure of the refugee camp. How exactly do you advise Kenya to deal with the situation?
I think you cannot compare Kenya with Germany because you have the Al-Shabaab threat.
Right.
Yeah, and it comes internally from Africa. It doesn't come from the Middle East, or maybe there's a cooperation
Correct.
among some terrorist actors in the Middle East, and which are penetrating also on sub-Saharan African soil. This exists.
Right.
But so the concern, as you already had an attack in Kenya, or already over 10 years ago, and it's still, you have the danger. I was talking once to United Nations responsible about the danger which exists in terms of potential terrorists and terroristic acquisition within refugee camps. He said it exists. And that's what we also notified in Germany, that some people who caused attacks and who initialized some kind of criminal activities, they came as refugees. So very, very difficult, a very difficult question. And I understand, and I think it's understandable from my side also that Kenya says, okay, what do we do? How far and how high is the danger that it can harm our society and our nation on a bigger scale? And even if it's a smaller scale, if you have somebody who kills 20 people, it's 20 people. I understand it, but it's for me very hard to give an advice because there I would know more the details.
Yes.
And
All right. Well, thank you so much. That is Charles Huber, who is a German member of parliament, and he also sits in the Committee for Foreign Affairs in Germany, giving us his perspective on the refugee crisis around the world and how Germany has been able to manage the numbers coming in, economic refugees, and of course, those of them running in search of safety. Back to you, Akisa.
Thank you, Joy, for that. Joy Doinbira there joining us live from the Intercontinental Hotel and the sidelines of the German-Africa Summit. Now, a section of leaders from Kirinyaga County went round the area urging residents to register themselves in large numbers just days before the closure of the exercise. Kirinyaga County has been ranked by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as one of the top counties that have recorded exemptionally high numbers during this registration exercise. At a center in Mwea, leaders who included Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisho, Kirinyaga Senator Daniel Karaba, and gubernatorial aspirant Anne Waiguru, among other leaders, called out to the people of Kirinyaga to take advantage of the remaining days before 14th of February.
Taken IDs, but they hadn't registered as voters, and as of a week ago, we had reached, I think, 153% target, and we are continuing until the last minute. I think the response has been good because many people have been coming out to take, to actually register to vote.
Wiper Secretary General Hassan Omar has launched his campaign to drum up support for mass voter registration at the coast, targeting Kilifi, Mombasa and Kwale. The senator says he is targeting everyone in the opposition to register as voters in order to remove Jubilee from power during the general election.
Uhuru Kenyatta wala William Ruto, tukiwa siasa yetu ni sera, twawapwaga asubuhi mchana kabla hata jua kuchomoka. Hapa pia Mombasa, kama ni sera, kama ni mwelekeo, kama tutaangalia utendakazi, kama tutaendelea mambo yoyote, basi mimi niko na hakika asubuhi mchana tutambwaga huyu pia aliyoko hapo Mombasa. Watu wanajiuliza katika mrengo wa NASA, upinzani, kwa nini watu wetu hawataki kuandikisha kura? Watu wetu hawataki kuandikisha kura.
From Mombasa, let's head over to the Rift, where more than 800 Sirikwa group squatters today converged at the late Maktor's Maziwa farm in Kapseret, Uasin Gishu County, for what they called special prayers. This was a day after a court in Eldoret ruled in their favor over a land dispute, pitting them with the late politician. Let us now join our reporter Elvis Kasgay for more details on that story. Elvis, thank you for joining us. The squatters must be elated.
Thank you very much, Akisa. Indeed, we just from Maziwa Farm, Kapseret constituency in Uasin Gishu County, where early this morning we saw more than 800 Sirikwa group squatters converge at the area of the ex-nominated MP, the late Mark Kiptarbeito, in what they termed as a special prayer or also a thanksgiving for the landmark ruling we saw yesterday by Judge Anthony Umbayo over the disputed piece of land. It's important to mention that 25,000 acres of land is in this dispute, and the court yesterday issued what they termed as the Maktor's family should not have less than 67.5 acre piece of land, and the squatter will now have to retain more than 24,433 acre of land. This court process has gone on for more than a decade. We are told that in 2007 this case was first filed, and the squatters have been doing rounds in the courts just to get an amicable resolution of the entire process. I think it's also important to mention that the 25,000 acres of land initially, it is allegedly it was owned by a white settler who later left the country and was left in the hands of the farm laborers. So the bone of contention is how the late politician managed to own the 25,000 piece of land. It is told that the court yesterday said that the ownership of the disputed land was illegal and unconstitutional. So we are waiting. What the squatters told us today is that they're waiting for the court order so that they'll be able to evict the family of the late ex-nominated MP, Mark Kiptarbeito. Akisa.
Elvis, thank you very much for joining us. Elvis Kuskei there joining us live from Eldoret. And as the mass voter registration exercise nears its end, the voter registration exercise continues in Kisumu with leaders at each other's throat over the exercise. Accusations and counter-accusations of disruption of the exercise. But let's now link up with our reporter in Kisumu, Rashid Ronald, with an update on how the exercise is faring on, with the leaders, of course, being on different sides of this particular exercise. Rashid, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Akisa Wandera. Rightly, I'm in Kisumu, Sunset Hotel, and of course, wherever you go around Kisumu, it's about the stories about voter registration here and there. Of course, sorry, I have to put back my earpiece. But it's all about voter registration wherever you go. And remember 2 weeks ago, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was here. He was not impressed with the way the numbers were. He summoned the leaders from across the region and told them, you have to do something. We need the numbers to go up. Remember, the target was below par. And as we speak right now, here at this hotel, I have the governor of Kisumu, His Excellency Jack Ranguma. He's been meeting women leaders from across the county, and it's all about asking them to go to their respective places and be able to mobilize people to be able to those who have not registered to be able to register. And remember, 2 days ago, the governor himself launched a very special number whereby those people who are not able to access those registration centers can be able, because of lack of fare, can be able to call that special number, and then they are picked and taken to those centers and registered, then they are brought back. Of course, a very noble idea. And I'll be asking Your Excellency, please tell us, take us through that number. How does it work? I'll hold it for you.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In Kisumu County, we have this responsibility to ensure that our people register as voters. And one of the things, as has been said, is that we launched a special hotline number, 0733 99036, which was meant to avail support to those of us who wanted to register as voters, but also wanted to take IDs to register as voters. Now, this number, I think, has been successful because from the reports that we are receiving from the ground, yesterday alone I was receiving a report this morning, Muhoroni sent more than 31 people to registration centers in Kisumu, meaning that those were people who had problems that were unable to reach Kisumu before. Now, that hotline continues to work, and we believe that by the end of day on 14th, we will have surpassed an expected number of voters that we want to register, because that we must do as the people of Kisumu. It is continuing to work. We have provided 7 vehicles to ferry people to registration centers, and we have said that where vehicles cannot reach, we have borders, and we have borders 5 per every sub-county, per every ward, available to reach everyone. Now, where those vehicles cannot reach, border will take you. Where border cannot reach, of course, we have people on foot that can come to you and take you to where you need to register. This is working very, very well as we speak.
And of course, maybe to take you back, by yesterday there was a bit of accusation, counter-accusation, that there are people who are sabotaging this process. Can you say something about that?
I think people are entitled to their views. It is not time to accuse each other. This is time for us to work together, pool our resources, pool our efforts to get what we want to get in terms of votes. Now, this vote is not about Ranguma. These are votes about Raila, because we have given him half the votes that we should give him. This time we are determined that we will give him the full gunia of votes that he needs to win the presidential election. It's not about Ranguma. So it is not about individuals, not about Ranguma, not about anybody that I'm competing with. We are all geared towards working to get one person in State House.
Yeah, thank you very much, Akisa Wandera. You've heard it from the governor, His Excellency Jack Ranguma, saying it's not about Jack Ranguma, it's not about anybody, it's not about you and me, but it's about Raila Odinga. They want to ensure that Raila Odinga this time becomes the President of the Republic of Kenya. Back to you, Akisa Wandera in Nairobi.
Thank you very much for that. Let's now get into sports. Leicester City secured a first home win of 2017 as Demarai Gray's superb solo goal sealed a 3-1 extra-time victory over Derby County in the FA Cup 4th round replay on Wednesday. The Foxes will now face League One Millwall in the last 16 on 18th of February.
Just one more tie to settle in the FA Cup 4th round. East Midlands rivals Leicester City and Derby County clashed on Wednesday night. The previous meeting ended in a 2-2 draw, necessitating the replay. Leicester boss Claudio Ranieri made 10 changes to the side that lost over the weekend to Manchester United, with only Ahmed Musa retaining his spot. The Nigerian should have opened the scoring just past the half-hour mark, but